The phone call came at 3:17 a.m. I remember because I'd been staring at my alarm clock for 2 hours, unable to sleep since the hospital called to say Dad was gone. Heart attack. Sudden. No warning. When the unknown number flashed on my screen, I almost didn't answer. Big mistake. The voice on the other end was crisp, professional. Ms. Carter, this is Attorney Whitmore. There's been a development with your father's estate. We need you at the penthouse immediately. I arrived still wearing yesterday's clothes. Black slacks, a wrinkled blazer, my hair thrown into a messy bun. The elevator ride to the top floor of the Carter Tower felt like an eternity. That's when I saw her for the first time. Naomi. My half-sister, though that term always felt too generous. She was the product of Dad's disastrous second marriage, a union that lasted barely 18 months. I'd met her exactly twice before today. Once at a stiff family dinner when I was 16, again at Dad's 60th birthday, where she'd spent the entire evening whispering to his business partners. Now she stood in my father's study, wearing his favorite Rolex, sipping his 30-year-old Macallan like she belonged there. The lawyer, Whitmore, cleared his throat. Miss Carter, thank you for coming on such short notice. I didn't sit. What's going on? Naomi smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. We're just tying up loose ends, Elizabeth. Whitmore slid a document across the desk. Your father amended his will 3 weeks before his passing. I scanned the page. Standard legal jargon, until I hit paragraph 4B. Having received conclusive DNA evidence that Elizabeth Marie Carter is not my biological daughter, I hereby revoke any prior bequests. The words blurred. My hands shook. That's impossible, I whispered. Naomi sighed dramatically. Dad always suspected. After all, your mother did have that reputation in college. I lunged before I could stop myself. Whitmore caught my wrist an inch from Naomi's smug face. Perhaps we should focus on the facts, he said quickly. Mr. Carter submitted samples to Genetron Labs. The results are unequivocal. He tapped a second report. 0% probability of paternity. The room spun. 28 years, birthday parties, college graduations, him teaching me to drive in that stupid Porsche he loved too much. All of it. A lie? My vision tunneled. The closest object was a blue and white Ming vase, Dad's prized possession from his first trip to Beijing. It made the most satisfying sound when it shattered. Naomi finally flinched. Are you insane? That was worth more than you are, I snapped. Then, realizing what I'd done, I dropped to my knees. I can fix this. I'll glue it. Frank, Dad's head of security, burst in. His eyes locked onto the porcelain shards, then me, then Naomi's triumphant smirk. Everything under control? He rumbled. Perfectly, Naomi said. Elizabeth was just leaving. As I gathered the broken pieces, why, pride? Denial? Naomi knelt beside me. You should know, she whispered. I'm selling Carter Pharma to BioVortex next month. Ice flooded my veins. BioVortex had been Dad's white whale, the competitor he'd spent a decade fighting in court over patent infringements. You wouldn't. She tucked a strand of my hair behind my ear. A mockery of sisterly affection. The board already approved it. Dad's real daughter gets what she wants. I was halfway to the elevator when I noticed it. A yellow, sticky note stuck to the back of the DNA report. Elizabeth, check safe deposit box 712. Password is your birthday. R. Dad's handwriting. Whitmore hadn't seen it. Naomi hadn't either. And just like that, the game changed. If she thinks I'll walk away, she doesn't know me at all. The sticky note burned a hole in my pocket all the way to First Manhattan Bank. Dad's safe deposit box. Box 712. Password. My birthday. Simple. Too simple. The bank manager, a woman with a pinched smile, led me to the vault. You're lucky, she said. Most boxes are cleared after death. Not this one, I muttered. The box was heavier than I expected. Inside? 1. A USB drive labeled E-backup. 2. A notebook with Dad's cramped handwriting. 3rd, and a sealed envelope marked, "If Naomi contests the will." My hands shook as I tore it open. A second DNA test. Same lab, same dates, 99.98% probability of paternity. I needed proof the first test was faked. That meant finding the lab tech who processed it. Genetron Labs was a sleek glass tower in Midtown. I waited outside for 3 hours, nursing a terrible coffee, until a harried-looking guy in a lab coat stumbled out. Liam Chen, according to his badge. I accidentally spilled my coffee on him. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I dabbed at his shirt with napkins. "Let me buy you a new one. There's a shop around the corner." 20 minutes later, I had him confessing over a whiskey. "They paid me $20,000, he whispered. "I didn't know it was for you. Some woman called, said it was for a custody case." "What woman?" "Blonde, rich voice. Said her name was—" A shadow fell over us. "Naomi." "Liam," she purred. "Fancy seeing you here." The color drained from his face. I slid my phone closer, recording. "You know our deal," Naomi said, leaning in. "Talk again and that accident your brother had last week? The next one's fatal." Liam bolted. Naomi turned to me. "Cute stunt. But without the original test, it's your word against mine." She flicked my USB drive onto the floor. And who'd believe a fake daughter? I was drowning my rage in vodka when he walked into the bar. Daniel Carter. "Yes, same last name." "No, not related." "Thank God. My ex, first love. The guy who'd ghosted me after law school to work for BioVortex. Now he slid into Liam's empty seat like no time had passed. "Heard you're in a war," he said. I glared. "Heard you're the enemy." He pushed a folder toward me. "Not anymore." Inside, Naomi's emails to BioVortex's CEO. "Once the DNA issue disinherits Elizabeth, I'll approve the sale. P.S. Burn this." "Daniel's price for helping?" "I need the original DNA test," he said. "BioVortex's legal team wants proof Naomi rigged it." I laughed. "Join the club. Naomi's bodyguard stole it." "Frank?" Daniel's eyes darkened. "He's not her bodyguard. He's BioVortex's plant. They've been blackmailing him for years." My stomach dropped. Frank had been Dad's most trusted employee, and now he was the enemy, which is how I ended up dressed as a janitor, crawling through Naomi's office window at midnight. The plan was simple. 1. Get in. 2. Find Frank's hidey hole. Daniel swore he kept files in a wall safe. 3. Get out. I didn't account for the window getting stuck halfway, or Naomi walking in, or the fire alarm I accidentally triggered while flailing. I tumbled into a potted fern as security swarmed the building. Naomi's scream followed me down the fire escape. "You're dead, Elizabeth." But as I ran, one thought kept me going. Dad knew. And if he left clues, there was more. The moment the audio went live, I knew there was no turning back. I uploaded it anonymously, of course. A 3-minute clip, grainy but crystal clear in content. Naomi's voice, sharp and cold as ever, whispering threats to Liam. It ended with her signature move, invoking someone's family member as collateral. Within hours, the clip exploded. Reddit, Twitter, morning news. One headline read, "Heiress threatens lab tech in inheritance scandal. Is Carter Pharma in trouble?" God, it felt good. For the first time since that ridiculous will was read, I felt control creeping back into my hands. Naomi had pushed me into the fire. Now I was dancing in the flames. I tracked down my father's old business partner, Gerald Lang. Retired, Florida. Predictably tan and skeptical. He didn't want to talk. Not until I showed him the envelope from the safe deposit box, the one marked, "If Naomi contests the will." His eyes widened. "She pulled the same stunt in 2016. He muttered, flipping through Dad's notes. "Tried to claim ownership over one of Robert's offshore labs, used forged signatures, doctored financials. Your dad covered it up. Said she was just lost." Lost? She knew exactly where she was going. Over my father's grave and straight into my life with a bulldozer. Gerald gave me the receipts. Literal ones. Copies of fake financial reports and a particularly damning email where Naomi wrote, "He'll never know. Old men don't check the Cayman accounts." I could have kissed him. I didn't. By Thursday, BioVortex was sweating. Their PR rep issued a painfully vague statement about evaluating internal partnerships. Translation: Naomi was toxic. I knew the board of Carter Pharma would be watching closely, especially now that she couldn't hide her past. Cue my next move. Infiltration. My friend Max, IT genius, semi-reclusive, allergic to sunlight and authority, owed me a favor. Long story involving a failed blind date I arranged for him with a woman who turned out to be an MLM recruiter. He'd forgiven me. Barely. Now he was in the belly of the beast, Carter Pharma's internal server, digging up every dirty secret Naomi had ever left unsecured. "Dude," he texted at 2 a.m. "She has an account named FunFun2Real. That's not even trying." Within days, we had a digital trail of off-the-books transactions, shady vendor contracts, and a luxury car bought in the company's name and rented to Naomi's cousin. I packaged it all up like a gift basket of vengeance and leaked it to a few well-placed journalists. The next morning, Naomi's face was on CNBC, and not in a good way. I was headed to a surprise meeting with 2 board members when the building's power flickered and went out completely. The emergency lights kicked in. Then came the voice. "Oh no, not you." Naomi stood across from me in the elevator, clutching a designer tote like it was a weapon. I stepped in. Doors closed. No escape. The silence was murder. Her eyes narrowed. "You're playing a dangerous game, Elizabeth." I smiled, only because I'm good at it. The elevator lurched. She stumbled. Her overpriced cappuccino exploded across the front of my white dress like a coffee murder scene. "Perfect." "Oops," she said, tone as fake as her cheekbones. "Don't worry," I said sweetly. "This is nothing compared to the mess you're in." I should have known Frank wasn't just Naomi's meathead in a suit. Daniel confirmed it the next day, dropping a file on my desk like he was delivering a verdict. "Your ex-bodyguard," he said, "is working for me." "Excuse me?" "Okay, technically for BioVortex. Or rather, for a client I'm representing who wants Carter Pharma in less criminal hands." Daniel's smile was shark-like. "Frank was a mole. Has been for years. He stole the DNA test because Naomi promised to make him head of security once the sale went through." I blinked. "That's idiotic." He shrugged. "Loyalty's cheap when it comes with a dental plan." I had to sit down. My dead father's trusted right-hand man, the guy who taught me how to throw a punch at age 13, had been double-crossing us all along. I wasn't sure if I wanted to scream or laugh, so I did both. Naomi tried to rally the board, call an emergency vote, paint me as an unstable, disinherited ex with a grudge. I walked in with Max's digital dossier, Gerald's affidavit, and a copy of the second DNA test. "Good morning," I said. "I'd like to discuss the criminal fraud being committed under your company's name." Silence. Naomi turned the color of expired milk. Board member number 3 dropped his pen. 10 minutes later, the vote to suspend Naomi as acting CEO passed 5-2. She stormed out. Not before hurling a stapler in my general direction. Missed by a mile. That night, Daniel and I shared a bottle of celebratory whiskey in my apartment. I didn't ask how he got past security. He's a lawyer. They know things. "Still think I'm the enemy?" he asked. "Jury's still out," I said, though my tone had softened. "You've got grit," he said. Robert would have been proud. Something about the way he said my father's name made my chest ache. We weren't done yet. I still needed the original will, the final nail in Naomi's coffin. But for now, revenge tasted like aged Glenlivet and victory. I stared at the city lights outside my window. Naomi's coffee still staining my dress. My inbox exploding with press requests. Let them talk. Let the world see. Naomi wanted to erase me. Erase my legacy, my name, my bloodline. But she made one fatal mistake. She underestimated how dangerous I could be when cornered. Because now, it wasn't just about the money. It was about making sure she never forgot my name. And I was just getting started. You'd be amazed how many rich people forget about their second safes. The first one, flashy, biometric, tucked behind an oil painting. That's the decoy, the one robbers aim for. The second? It's dusty, mechanical, hidden behind books no one reads, which is exactly where I found it, behind the complete works of Nietzsche in Dad's library. The smell of leather and old paper punched me in the chest like a memory. This was his space. Not Naomi's, not Biovortex's. Mine. I twisted the dial. Left, right, left, my birthday. Click. Inside, wrapped in an old manila folder and Dad's terrible handwriting, was the real will. I blinked twice. Then I sat on the floor and read it again. Forget paragraph 4B. In this version, there was no mention of DNA tests, no whispered doubts about my lineage. Just 2 pages of straightforward bequests. To my daughter, Elizabeth Marie Carter, I leave the controlling shares of Carter Pharmaceuticals, the Midtown penthouse, and the Beijing vase, assuming she hasn't broken it. I choked. He knew me so well. As for Naomi, she got a trust fund, enough to live comfortably, with a note. This will keep her out of trouble, hopefully. Not my beloved daughter, not my legacy, just a precaution. He'd known. Maybe not the full picture, but enough to hedge his bets. While I was still on the library floor, rereading that note like it could hug me back, Naomi was clinking glasses with board members at a private celebratory brunch. According to her Instagram story, yes, I check, she wore white. Again. You'd think she'd have learned after the elevator coffee massacre. She toasted the new era of Carter Pharma, not knowing that somewhere across the city, a Forbes reporter was preparing to click publish. Thanks to Max's leak and Gerald's testimony, the article was a takedown for the ages. Heiress or hustler? The dark past of Naomi Carter. It hit like a meteor. Insider trading allegations, forged records, lab manipulation, and of course, the pièce de résistance, audio of Naomi threatening a lab tech over DNA results. The brunch ended early. Daniel arrived at my apartment 5 minutes after the article went live. No hello, no preamble. He just tossed a USB drive on my coffee table and said, she was blackmailing my client. I blinked. Excuse me? Naomi found out one of my clients was investing in Biovortex. She threatened to go public with an unrelated indiscretion unless they guaranteed her the CEO spot post sale. You're just now telling me this? Daniel held up a hand. I couldn't move until I had everything. Emails, contracts, phone logs, I have them now. He exhaled and finally looked at me. I'm with you, Elizabeth. I always was. It wasn't a romantic moment exactly, but something shifted. A quiet kind of alliance. Warborn. Necessary. I didn't waste time. The next morning, we filed a motion to halt the Carter Pharma sale, citing fraud, forgery, and fiduciary breach of duty. The courthouse buzzed like a beehive poked with a very expensive stick. I stood on the marble steps in a black suit, reporters swarming like flies. Someone shoved a mic in my face. Ms. Carter, is it true you plan to reclaim your father's company? I smiled. Sharp. Controlled. I'm not reclaiming anything, I said. I'm protecting what was mine to begin with. Inside, Naomi's lawyers tried to argue the audio was inadmissible. The judge raised an eyebrow. Ms. Carter's sister threatened to murder a lab tech over DNA results. Pause. That seems relevant. Later that afternoon, I sent Naomi a package. Inside, a colorful plastic box labeled DNA test, ages 4+, along with a note, maybe try again. No signature, no need. She'd know exactly who sent it. Naomi's publicist dropped her within the hour. Her real estate agent followed. Even her Pilates instructor posted something shady about negative energy being contagious. I almost felt bad. Almost. Then I remembered her smug little face in Dad's study, sipping Macallan like she earned it. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was justice. Old school, biblical, with a legal brief. The board called an emergency meeting that Friday. Daniel and I walked in side by side, calm, poised. Naomi sat at the end of the table, eyes bloodshot, makeup uneven, not her usual polished villainous look. She tried to speak. I raised my hand. Don't. I slid the real will across the table, then a printed copy of the Forbes article, then Daniel's files on the blackmail. Unless anyone here wants to join her on the sinking ship, I suggest we vote to invalidate the previous transition plan. Silence. Then, a soft voice. Seconded. It passed unanimously. Naomi stood up, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't have anything smug or cruel to say. Just a look. 1 part hate, 2 parts fear, and a whisper of something I didn't recognize at first. Regret. That night I sat alone in the penthouse. My penthouse. Dad's study was quiet. The city blinked outside the windows like a million little lies wrapped in light. I poured myself a Macallan, 30 years old, the same bottle Naomi flaunted on day 1. I didn't toast. I just sat. Let it burn. The war wasn't over yet. But the tide had turned. She came for my name, my company, my legacy. But now she had nothing but headlines and shame. And I had the truth. Signed, notarized, and admissible in court. The courtroom smelled like wood polish, stale coffee, and a hint of expensive cologne. Naomi sat across from me, trying to look composed in a navy pantsuit that probably cost more than my first car. Her makeup was flawless. Her expression? Less so. I could see it in the twitch of her jaw, the slight tremble in her fingers. This wasn't a woman confident in her victory. Because this time, the evidence wasn't on her side. This time, I had the truth. On paper, in audio, and, most satisfying of all, in blood. The judge leaned forward, voice even but firm. The court finds that the amendment to Mr. Robert Carter's will was based on fraudulent documentation and manipulation. My breath caught. Therefore, the court recognizes the original will as valid and enforces its provisions in full. Ms. Elizabeth Carter is hereby declared the rightful heir to the Carter estate and controlling shareholder of Carter Pharmaceuticals. It took me a moment to process the silence. Naomi didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't faint. She just turned her head and glared at me. I smiled. Not out of spite, not exactly, but in victory, in truth. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed us like bees on spilled champagne. One of them shoved a mic in Naomi's face. Any comment, Miss Carter? She blinked, and for a second, I thought she might actually apologize. Maybe mutter something about miscommunication or misguided ambition. Instead, she hissed, "She was never even supposed to exist." I laughed, loudly, into every camera and microphone, and said, "Funny, I was thinking the exact same thing about you." With the verdict out, Naomi's spiral was faster than I expected. Her bank accounts? Frozen pending investigation. Her penthouse? Gone. She tried to sell it to cover legal fees, but turns out forged signatures don't transfer property titles. Biovortex. They ghosted her. Quietly distanced, publicly disgusted. In the end, all she had left was a tarnished name and a single job offer from a budget clinic in Jersey. The same clinic where she once bribed a tech to fake my DNA results. Oh, the irony. According to Max, who hacked the onboarding records just for fun, her job title was Junior Records Assistant. Her starting wage, $17.25 an hour. No benefits, no corner office, no power, just her, a clipboard, and a lot of resentment. It was late afternoon when she showed up at my office. No appointment, no warning. Just Naomi. In a rain-drenched trench coat, mascara smudged, holding a manila envelope like it might save her life. She didn't even knock. "Elizabeth," she said, like we were sisters again. I didn't look up from my laptop. "Naomi." "I'm not here to fight." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh? That's new." She ignored the jab, sat across from me, and placed the envelope on my desk. Her fingers lingered on it like it was fragile. I made mistakes. I tilted my head. Which decade are we talking about? She flinched. I need help. I closed my laptop. She must have been desperate. I waited. I'm being investigated, she said. SEC, tax fraud, maybe prison. I can't afford a lawyer. I let that sink in. Naomi Carter, the woman who tried to erase my identity and sell my father's legacy to the highest bidder, was asking me for help. I leaned forward. You once told me blood matters, that DNA defines who we are. She swallowed. I smiled. Sweetly. Razor sharp. So, good luck, sis. A week after the verdict, I returned to the penthouse. My penthouse. It still smelled like leather, scotch, and faint regret. Dad's study was untouched. Books lined the walls like quiet sentinels. I ran my hand along the edge of his desk. The same one Naomi had tried to conquer. That I had once cried under at 12 when I broke the stock ticker display. He never replaced it. The bottom drawer stuck slightly. Inside was an envelope. Cream paper. My name in his handwriting. I sat down before opening it. Elizabeth, if you're reading this, it means you found the truth. I always knew you would. Naomi. She had something to prove. You, on the other hand, had something to protect. This company, this family, our name. You were always stronger. And if not, then at least do it in style. Love. Dad, I cried. For the first time in weeks, we didn't rebrand. Not completely. The name still meant something, but now, Carter stood for integrity, for rebuilding, for medicine with purpose, not profit. Daniel and I set up an ethics advisory board. Max installed cybersecurity that made the NSA look like amateurs. We rehired some of the employees Naomi had let go for asking too many questions. And the company? It didn't just recover. It flourished. Investors returned. So did public trust. And Daniel? He wasn't just my partner in war anymore. He became something more. Let's just say, Macallan 30 wasn't the only thing aged to perfection. 2 months later, I got a text from Max. Max, you're going to love this. Security cam footage, Jersey Clinic, check your email. I opened the file. Naomi, in scrubs, alone in the lab, frowning at a DNA testing machine. She pressed a few buttons. The screen blinked, then went black. Smoke, panic. Naomi yanked the plug, slipped on her own coffee, landed on her ass. Max had slowed it down and added cartoon sound effects. She knocked over a second machine on her way out. Clinic staff rushed in, shouting. Someone yelled, "Was she trying to fake a test again?" I laughed so hard I almost dropped my phone. Some things really do come full circle. One morning, I stood outside Carter Tower. Same building, new sign. Carter Biologics, a legacy of truth. It felt right. Not flashy. Not bitter. Just clean. Like a slate finally wiped of everything Naomi tried to scrawl across it. Daniel stepped beside me, hand in mine. "What now?" he asked. I smiled. "Now?" I said. "We get to work." And as we walked through the doors, past the lobby she once ruled, through the halls he once built, into the office now mine, I felt it. Not revenge, not vindication, but peace. And the quiet, steady weight of something stronger than blood. Legacy, truth, and the future. Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss more unbelievable real-life stories.